Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, it's been a day. Armando, you're here with me today. I love this topic. I love it because I'm a dad, and so it's easier to talk. I did one with Janan about moms, and so I was going to give my piece to that, but I was kind of coming from a dad's perspective. But in reality, moms and dads feel things through the process of divorce, and they have roles they play.
Yes.
In these things, and I'm so thankful that we broke this up and said, hey, we got one shout out to the mamas, we got this shout out to the dads, and so I'm real excited to do this, and I'm really thankful that you decided to go, Michael. I'm going to put you in the light, literally, right?
I figured you had a perspective that was worth hearing.
Maybe we'll see. I have a multitude of perspectives. I don't know if they're worth hearing, but I.
All right, you're right. Let's not say anything I can't take back. You're right.
There you go.
Let's not do that.
Well, I guess the listeners can give us feedback on that was worth hearing or not, right? By the way they listen to it. So let me first off thank you all so much for being here. For those people, we have some listeners that have listened from the time we put this stuff out there all the way through, and I'm just it's awesome. And I know how much you, especially Armando, have appreciated that, because I remember the preliminary talks about doing podcast. We were like, how is this going to work? And we can do this. But here we are, we're doing it, and people are listening. We've got people, if I'm correct, Armando, we got people listening from coast to coast. I'm going to be honest with you. There's people we have learned coast to coast, bro.
That's exciting.
Yes. And if I'm saying this correctly, I could be a little shy. 3 or 4 different countries.
That's awesome.
Bro, we are... It is awesome, and I'm stoked. So it's valued. We got to keep doing it. So for you daddies out there that are listening to this particular episode, this is for you, and I'm excited to help you guys out. So from one dad to another.
Or even you mothers who are out there to get a different perspective on kind of what the other side looks like, right? Because
your ex-husbands, or what are these dads, what am I getting from these dads, the way they're reacting, responding? You're right.
Well, and I think that's what's important is by doing it, breaking it up this way, it's the perspective. So when we can understand someone's perspective, it's better for us to respond effectively as opposed to, getting into fights, cussing somebody out over text.
Oh, that happens.
I mean, people ask me to read their texts all the time of things, and I'm like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, let me show you what they sent me.
Maybe you shouldn't have said it like that. I don't know. Which that goes into kind of what we're talking about, right? So putting yourself in the dad role, especially moving from, the unified family to now you're separated, you're divorced. What is that role? What does that look like? A lot of times dads can feel like they have it different, right? Like the court system, society is out to get them. Like, what is their role? Is that something you've heard, Michael, in your office when people talk about?
Oh, my gosh.
When you have dads come in?
Dads can feel completely emasculated by the process and the system. You got to remember, and it's for the moms and the dads. A lot of the men, I wish we could do it different, but a lot of these men are coming in with the perspective that they're behind the 8 ball. They're like, the system's already against them. It's like the mamas are going to get the win, right? If you want to treat it as a win-lose, because in reality, you both lose in family law, in my opinion. That's just an opinion, because there's a lot of stuff that happens. Nobody walks out going, okay, that I've seen at this point. The point I'm making is that dads feel a lot more on their end than mamas, and that's been reported to me, that they're already walking into a losing thing.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I'm already behind the deal.
No, I would agree.
Feeling emasculated, feeling like their fatherly role is taken away. When they get an introduction of a step parent, like a stepdad comes in, it intensifies.
Yep.
Because I'm being replaced. And if the dad hears that the kids are calling the stepdad dad, oh my gosh, that just Yeah, I think I'll say this as a father. Being a father has probably been one of the most privileged and blessings that I've got to experience in my life when my kids look at me as dad. Because the truth is, I'm married, I have my kids. I know when my kids look at me, they know dad's leading. At some level, I get the sense that my kids look at me and go, dad's leading the charge. And that feels good. Like, don't get me wrong, as a new dad, I was afraid of being that because I was like, man, I got a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. But I love that my kids can look at me that way. I think one of the things I hear dads say to me a lot, and you might hear this too, Armando, is when the dads give the history of their relationship with their kids, they usually describe themselves or the kids seeing them as a hero.
Sometimes, yeah.
These dads feel like they wore a cape and the kids looked at them that way. And then they get a divorce and the kid is either rejecting of them or whatever. And so they get a very different experience with their kid in divorce. And so they automatically assume mom's doing it.
Well, I think speaking to your point about feeling like the leader or kind of the head of the household, that's kind of, that changes that whole dynamic, right? Because that head of the household changes. Like, now what is it? And
I'm the head of a weekend.
Right. But I think that's where I would encourage dads, and this is going to be hopefully the through line to this, is that you are the head of your household. You still get to participate, right? I know the feeling of, I'm only the weekend dad. I'm only the Disneyland dad. I'm only the part-time parent.
I'm the ATM.
Oh, the ATM. You're just there for the money.
I'm just there for the money.
Mm-hmm.
You get it. You've heard that one.
I have. And I think it's fair to say that these beliefs exist for a reason, right? Like, historically, that there has been, and this is not the case now, I've not seen this now, but historically there was the presumption that mom's house is better, right? Like, the kids need their mom. They need to be with mom full time. And so historically there is that. And then you go on Facebook or any dad groups and you have word of mouth and stories of other dads, because it does happen. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And then if you go into court and you get reamed by the judge or you get reamed by mom's attorney, it just kind of it's that confirmation bias of that feeling.
I will say this. I think biologically, the way God created us, we need both our parents. You need 2 for 1. I mean, you have to have the male and the female to create the male, right? Or to create the female, to create the kid. You have to have mom and dad. But I do believe also that God was smart in his infinite wisdom. He knew that something could happen to one of them, right? Something can happen to mom, something can happen to dad, whatever, and that kid still has that parent. So in my opinion, as a father, the hardest conversation I have with dads is when they feel so beat down, right, through the system, the process, or whatever's going on. They look at me, not that they want to give up. It's they just go, I don't want to put the effort in. I don't want to not be dad, but I don't want to put the effort in because I feel like at this point it's either hurting my kid. I'm not going to get any kind of, they lose hope is what I'm saying. They lose the hope that they can ever get to a place of being the father they want to be to their children. And a lot of times when I've talked to dads about this, I've seen this swing both ways. I'll have the dads that'll go, no, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going because I want my kid to always know their dad was always present. And then I'll get the dads that come in and they'll do the opposite one, which is they'll say, I think it's time for me to like not push so hard for this, but I want to know how to close it right. Right. And so like planting that seed, like I'm the prodigal son story is really what it is. It's I don't think this is best, but if you think it is, I'm going to let you go. And then with the hope that the kid will return.
So I call that like leaving the door open, right? Kind of like, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to leave the door open, know that I'm not giving up. You're asking me to do this. And that comes through, I don't encourage dads to do that right away. That is something that happens.
I don't think I've ever encouraged it. I've had dads bring it to my attention and we talk through it, but you're right. I don't know if I've ever encouraged it.
No, I don't, it's not, I am not one for like edging out a parent at all, quite frankly. But I think when there have been conversations about what that looks like, I think it's important to still empower those fathers, right? And I think for mothers listening to this, it's important to understand their perspective on where that's coming from. So when you get those text messages or you get those responses, it's coming from a place of fear that they feel like they've been edged out. They feel like their authority has been taken from them. And so they're reacting that way. Like these behaviors are a response to those beliefs and those reactions. So
say that again. Those responses for these dads are in response to believing and feeling what?
That they're being edged out, they're being replaced, that they're losing their responsibility. It's a fear-based response. So when we get scared, what do? We
react instead of respond. I mean, that's what we do in fear. And we become more controlling, right? So high control is high fear.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. If someone comes in and says they're so controlling, what are they afraid of?
They're scared. Like, what are you
That's
afraid
literally
of?
what it is, right? So let me go over some of these, Armando. I'm
Go
going to go over some common complaints. All right, they're written here. I feel like I'm always being watched or judged, right? This is from a dad. I feel like I'm always being watched or judged. No matter what I do, it's not enough. I don't get a say unless something goes wrong. I don't get any input, but when something goes wrong, all of a sudden, daddy, the rules keep changing. Yeah.
So what I'm struck by all of those, because I've heard all those things and a variation of things of that too, I'm struck with how much fear is in each one of those statements.
Yes. So what are those fears? Let's get into that. Losing influence or connection with your kids. That's the fear. Mamas, if you're hearing it, dads, I know I'm talking right to you. You fear losing influence or connection with your children. Being replaced or edged out emotionally.
Yep.
Okay, that's a big one. Some more. Being seen as less capable.
That's a big one that I hear a lot.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not as capable as a dad, right? Like mamas think they got to have all the control of the situation because daddies didn't do it. But they never made the lunches. They never took them to the practices.
Yep. They don't know how to do that. I've been the one that's always done this. I did that. And it's like, okay, well, they can learn. My favorite thing, and this is just a personal story, but hearing that is like, whenever I had a friend and she was like, oh yeah, the kids with dad, we were out doing something, and somebody else was like, oh, so dad's babysitting? And she's like, he's not babysitting, it's his kid. He's taking care of his kid. Like, that's babysitting. He's been a parent. Yeah, he's parenting. But that concept, I think, still exists.
It does.
And I think because that exists, that's where that fear is based out of. So
when
you feel that way, dads, you're not crazy. Like, that exists.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, Armando said it, dads, don't worry, you're not crazy. Your responses to your reactions, not responses, your reactions to these fears and these senses can create more problem.
Yes.
You can sometimes push your kid into the other parent by reacting this way. And that's what I want dads to understand.
You can act crazy. You're just not crazy.
Ooh.
We'll get there.
We're going to get into that. Okay. So going back through more fears, making that when you make a mistake, that you're going to have it used against you. Dads have said those are fears, right? If I make a mistake, it's going to get used against me, right? So they're even fearful in the therapy sessions, right? They can't even make a mistake in therapy because it's going to get used against them. Conflict is escalating into legal or court involvement. Yeah, the conflict we're in is going to end up escalating. No, they're going to take me to court for that one. Yep, here it comes.
They're going to weaponize what I just said.
Yeah. So I lost my, pardon my language, parents, dads will do this. I lost my shit with my kid. My kid did X. I got pissed off and I told them whatever and I yelled at them. They're going to go back and tell their mom. And now mom's going to take me to court and file a TRO. Yep. That's how we hear it. Isn't that how we hear it with those dads? Yeah. Okay. So we have that. How fear often shows up, I think, with dads is defensiveness, disengagement, some type of rigidity or control, overbearing, right? And so that's how it's showing up in you, the dads. You become defensive. You get disengaged, right? I'm not sitting in a room with her.
Right.
The mom, right?
Well, and I think to that point is when you get too reactive, right? Like you get too emotional and it comes across as aggressive. And how many times have you heard dads being labeled as violent or scary or
unsafe.
Dangerous or unsafe?
Unsafe, right? Yep.
And so these reactions to that, you're being defensive, in turn fuels that narrative. So I think that's something to kind of keep in mind is that, you know, how are we reacting to that? Because that is going to come across, especially if the narrative is he's unsafe, he's unhinged, he's violent, he's abusive.
Yeah. And these are the traps that dads are running into. They're running into overcompensating to prove they're a good dad.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes. I think I tell dads all the time, I'm like, just be a good dad. Just be a good dad.
You know, I asked somebody this. I said, what would a good dad do in that situation? I've done that before with a dad. Just talking to a dad, not talking with a kid, not just the dad. They'll give me an issue they're having, and I don't have a solution or suggestion. I don't know the rest of the people. I'm just talking to the man, right? Like I'm coaching the father. And I'll be honest with you, I actually enjoy those sessions. Like when a dad reaches out to me and says, man, I want to know how to do this better for my kid, divorce. I'll tell you the things that I think are happening, and I'll go, cool, let's learn ways to respond to that. But when my land is always, what does a good dad do in that situation? And you know what's funny? They always have an answer. They do this, and I go, then go do that. Like literally, your default, if listeners for dads, and I would encourage moms, what would a good mom do in that situation? What does a good dad do in that situation? That might be your starting point. It might not land the way you hope, but it's moving the needle just by going, what is a good dad?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So I want to go over this too. The common traps that parents are running into, we mentioned, are overcompensating, proving they're a good dad, but also they pull back because they feel uncertain or judged.
Yep. And so when they pull back, what's the narrative that gets placed on them, Michael? What happens?
Well, they're an uninvolved dad.
They're uninvolved. They're unresponsive. I can't co-parent with him. He doesn't respond. There's no communication.
Mm-hmm. And then that uninvolved dad's complaint in a session with us is, they don't let me be a dad.
Yep.
They are keeping me from being a father. So if the moms are hearing the dad say, I wonder what I can do to help them feel more as, and then if the dads can say, I wonder what I can do in the sense that I feel that, so that I can get back to being the dad. Because you're both contributing to that feeling. Do you agree that dads and moms both contribute to that feeling?
100%.
Okay.
Because I think it goes back to, and we've talked about this before, is the lack of trust, right? So if I don't trust that you can parent, that you're a dad, right? Mm-hmm. If I say, well, we had this issue, did you talk to the kid? And the dad responds, yeah, I'll talk to him. Well, how did I know he talked to him? Well, trust that he's a dad and he'll take care of it.
And I've asked moms too, like, if dad's going to fail, you got to let him. If it's not going to place the kid in any danger, but the kid's going to miss a practice or an event or something because the dad's not stepping up, let him. Because get at some point your kid's going to go, hey, Dad, I really don't like that you, and that's going to help create that relationship to grow or to fail because you've let them get there. Dads want to fail and they want to succeed. They want to be told how to succeed, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree.
Because men are stubborn.
I mean, speak for yourself.
Armando, you're stubborn.
I don't think I am.
That's awesome. Oh, Logan, I love working with you guys. So,
to your point, though, I would agree that dads. I've asked this multiple times to kids, to moms, to dads. Do you think dad can dad? Do you think he can be that role of dad?
That.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I was like, well, let's find out.
Yeah.
Let him dad. I mean, if he has to figure out how to get the kid from point A to point B to point C, because you usually were the soccer mom taking him in the SUV everywhere, and now he has to figure it out. Let him figure it out.
So you gave me something. I'm gonna piggyback on that. What I want dads to remember in this particular piece is that divorce doesn't make you less of a dad. It just requires you to become a different kind of dad. And let me tell you what the difference is. The different dad you're gonna be is you're gonna show up. You're gonna be the dad that is consistent. You say what you mean what you say, and you show up. Because if you're that dad, you're showing your kid, you can put your faith in me to get it done for you. Okay? I think that's what I want to ask dads to keep in mind. That's what a different kind of dad is. Does it make sense? Maybe when you were married, you got to focus on your job and your career work because you had a wife at home taking care of things. I don't know. I don't know what your situation was. But when you're becoming a different kind of dad, you're showing up, you mean what you say what you mean, you be consistent. I've watched dads. I've seen it in reverse. I've seen the moms lose the access to the kids and dads get the kids, right? I've seen it. And I can tell you what those dads are doing.
They're being consistent.
They're showing up. They're taking responsibility. And when things go wrong, they blame themselves. Which I need to do this better. Maybe I missed that.
What's interesting to that point is a lot of times when I see that, it's usually the reverse. It usually starts with mom saying that dad is unsafe. Dad is inconsistent. And so what ends up happening is dad is actually not that. He is that consistent. And the mom in those cases tends to kind of unravel. And that's the language I'm using here, but like they tend to unravel. And then they end up going back. They end up going to dad. And the dad does provide that stability. And I think to your point, and I think it doesn't matter necessarily about time. If any time you have them, any opportunity you can be that consistency. I think that's important. I talked to a dad once. We were doing reunification, and it was a hard case. Like it had all the things. You name it.
It's there. Yeah,
it's there.
It was one of those. It's all the seasons.
It had all the stuff on it, and I think they would agree, the family would agree that it ended successfully, right? Because the kid ended up seeing dad. And I asked dad at the end of it, I said, what was the one thing that really helped you that if you could go back and tell yourself when we started this process, that would be helpful?
Wow.
He said that I can be a dad no matter how much limited of time, any opportunity I get to see my child, my son, I'm dad, and I'm consistent, and he knows that.
And what difference did that make?
Well, now when I tell you it had all the things, it had all the things. It had allegations of abuse. It had money issues. It had step-parents. It had alienation.
Verification. Triangulation.
It had people in behavioral hospitals, suicidal ideation.
Wow.
Yeah, it had. I'm telling you, it had everything.
Safety's all in there.
It had.
And you're saying the dad's way of responding to all that sprinkled in was what?
Was consistency.
Wow.
And patience. That was the other thing. Patience is another.
That's one that gets missed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm consistent. I don't know. Are you patient?
But are you patient?
No. That's where the stubborn comes in, right?
And that's where, if you want to talk about patience and trust, go back to the podcast episode about the trust formula.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
It's all in there.
It's there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go over this real quick. We're going to have to finish up, but here's what I want to go over. When building trust through the process, you need predictability.
Yes.
Does that sound like a formula?
Mm-hmm.
Routines and following through, emotional steadiness. What do you think about that?
I think it's important because if I'm not, if as a father, as a parent, I'm not like emotionally, I don't have my foundation, I'm going to react negatively, right? If I feel like you're questioning my ability to parent and I react, then I send those angry, angry messages, right? Where's the stability in that?
Well, that becomes the norm for what they experience, and they kids lose hope too, thinking that's what's going to be forever. Right. So then they're like, I can't invite them both to my graduation.
Nope.
What's that going to look like? And that's sad when kids get in that place. So I'm going to start giving like some directive here. Okay.
Go for it.
Dads, if you'll stay engaged without competing. Okay, let me say that again. Staying engaged without competing. You like that, don't you?
Well, let me tell you why I like that. Like, I literally I had these kids list all the things that were bothering them about their parents. And one of the things that came up, they said, it feels like a competition.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Feels like a win-lose.
It feels like a win-lose.
Court makes it feel that way too.
Mm-hmm. It does. And I think that's the thing that I tell parents is that you feel like it's a win-lose. These kids don't care. They're not about that.
The kids don't need you to win. They need you to show up.
And that's it. They need that consistency. They need you to show up.
I had one kid tell his dad, speaking of a story, he was holding on to this hurt and pain. Dad never understood what it was. He was rude to dad. Dad was, it's mom. We got into therapy. And so instead of asking about mom, I looked at the kid and I said, was there a time when, or tell me a time when you and your dad were close? And he tells me at this time, my dad and I played football, blah, 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 whatever. And I said, when do you remember it changing? Now, I didn't even ask about mom. I just asked the kid, when do you remember it changing? Dad's in the room. He said, I remember I played this playoff game. Was it what playoff? Football game. And he said, and I remember playing the football game, and it was a close game. It was a great game. I looked forward to that game all season while it was a rivalry, blah, 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 whatever. And we ended up winning. I said, did you really? He goes, yep. And he goes, and throughout the whole game, when I was on the sideline or whatever, I kept looking in the stands. I saw my mom, saw my stepdad, never saw my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things changed for me because it felt like dad didn't care. And dad was sitting in the room and he just looks at his son. He's got some tears in his eyes and he said, you did play a great game. The kid looked confused and he goes, when did you see my game? He goes, I was there. He goes, oh, you weren't? The kid was like, you're not going to interrupt my view of the fact you weren't there. I looked for you. And dad goes, do you remember the section that wasn't in the stands, but where the parents stood up, like against the gate where the track is? The track's around the field. There's this area where people can stand. He's like, yeah, I was there. And you want to know why I was there? Because I saw where your mom was in the stands, and I didn't want to create a problem for you. So if I went into the stands, it was going to create a problem. At least that's what I felt. So what I did instead is, because it was about you and not about me and your mom, I kept my distance.
I stayed over here.
And I'm so sorry you never saw me. But I watched you play that game. And I said, well, what do you remember about the game? And so Dad's, because I was curious too, right? Well, Dad starts describing specific things that happened in the game that the kid remembered too. And the kid got really like emotional. Like he was almost like apologetic. Like, I'm so sorry, Dad. Like, because think about it. His whole premise was you didn't show up and Dad showed up. Show up. Be a parent. Show up, okay? Get past yourself a little bit here. Keep the communication child-focused.
I think that's important. Because if you don't, again, I harp on this because I cannot tell you how many times I've had clients come in with stacks and pages of communication, and they want me to read it and they want me to see it. And I'm like, oh yeah, you took that bait. You did kind of go off. Like, I don't know. Maybe
Dads will bait moms. Moms will bait dads. I'll say it for both of them.
They sure will.
And baiting each other.
And I always tell people, like, you know what's going to happen. Why are you acting new? Like, you know what they're going to do.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to a story I used to tell. And I got this story from Dr. Granvold. He was a professor at UTA. And so here's the story. He went like this. He passed away. He was a great guy, but here's the story. If you're two bass in the water and you're swimming with your buddy, the bass, right? You're swimming in the water or whatever. And here comes some food. You see food, like, ooh, there's food. And your friend goes and grabs the food and gets yanked out of the water, right? And you're like, oh my God, right? And the next thing you know, bloop, food comes back in the water. If you bite down on that food after what you just saw happen to your friend, what does that make you?
A dumb bass.
A dumb bass. I think you can figure it out.
Yeah,
it makes you a dumb bass. Y'all can figure that out. We're adults here. Don't be a dumb bass. Don't take the bait, okay? When you know it's there, what are you doing? Be curious, not defensive. We teach that all the time, right? And so you can ask curious questions. You can say, hey, it feels like this. I trained this in the counter-alienation course.
Yep.
It feels like is different than it is. And it keeps you in the safe zone.
And I think that is so important. Our listeners, dads specifically.
Yeah.
Moms too, right? Everybody. Like,
tell them.
Go back and listen to the collaborative conversation episode. Check out the course. Like, these are all things that, like, they're important to know and understand, because it's to help you navigate this.
Yep.
Right? It's to help you understand yourself and navigate this process, because you know what? They're going to keep throwing bait. You're going to keep fishing.
That's right. So let's end with this, Armando. Your confidence as a father will grow when you can respond intentionally, with intention, right? And you're not responding emotionally or defensively. Get rid of those.
I think too is if you remember that you're secure with your role as dad, they can't take that. Like, that is your role.
Yes.
Hold on to that, and that then you don't have to worry.
Yep. So I had a kid in the session, teenage kid, and I asked the kid, who gets to decide what kind of dad you have? And the kid goes, me. I said, who gets to decide what kind of mom you have? He goes, me. I said, does your mom get to tell you what kind of dad you have? No. Does your dad get to tell you what kind of mom you have? No. Remind me again, who gets to decide that? Me. So I looked at the parents and I said, now it doesn't matter what y'all think of each other as parents. All that matters is what that kid thinks.
Yep.
The kid gets to decide. So if the kid comes to you, dad, and says, I think you're a bad dad, I want you to start with that. Don't make it about mom at that point. Go, hey, man, that's not what I want to be. Let's fix that.
Yep.
Kid comes to you and says, I think you're a bad mom. Let your child make that. They're the ones being parented by you. Make sense? I love undoing that knot. And that's how I do it usually, pretty quick. So anyway, for you dads that are listening, thank you for being here. Thank you, Armando. Gosh, man. Were you moderating? What was happening there?
I think we were just having a conversation.
I
think that's kind of how we go.
Me likey. I like that we get to have conversation, and I love that we get to do this for these people. So.
And I also hope that any mothers that were listening, they get a new perspective to kind of think about it too. So like maybe you're unintentionally or intentionally throwing bait, right? My hope is that it's not intentional.
Well, he is bass. No kidding.
Well, no, my hope is that you learn from this and maybe kind of take a step back also for your perspective to be like, okay, they're coming out this way because they're fearful. Is that, do I want my child to go somewhere where you know what I mean? Like, how are we co-parenting?
I hope what this does is that both mom and dads listen to both episodes and get a new perspective of the other one and say, how can I do this better for our children? I said that right?
Yeah. For our children.
Our children. We, us, our, period. Done. Exclamation point. Stamp it. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. We appreciate you. It's time to tell them. Armando, what are they supposed to do?
Keep moving forward.
Do it. Hey, if you're listening right now, I want you to take a deep breath. I know this is hard. Maybe your child is pulling away, saying things that sting, or seems caught in the middle of conflict, and it's leaving you feeling helpless and frustrated. You're not alone, and it's not your fault. That's exactly why I created the Countering Alienation course. It's a practical step-by-step program to help you recognize alienating behaviors, respond in a way that protects your relationship, and rebuild the trust with your child even when it feels impossible. This is not about fighting your co-parent. It's about keeping your connection strong, staying grounded, and giving your child the stability and love they need. You deserve tools and guidance that you can actually use, and your child deserves the relationship only you can give. Check out the registration link in the show notes. This is the right move. You got this.